Hello, cousins. Welcome to SASS Mass, our spirituality and support symposium. Think morning witchy chats around a warm campfire. The recording has started, and by participating in SASS, you agree to read and accept the terms of engagement, which I will post in the chat shortly. We ask that you mute during the recording for clarity during the meeting and for the afterplay. We will now get started with a few announcements. And I guess, Jen, I'll hand it.
I literally came on, right?
Perfect, Maria. Yes.
Woohoo.
That was so tidy. That was so
Yeah,
tidy.
I know.
Magical.
That's hysterical. Hey everyone, happy Sunday. So I posted some upcoming stuff on the Facebook group, but if you're not on there, we have our in-person convergence coming up on the end of September. Our autumnal convergence. And so if any of you are interested, if you've never been before, and you have questions or you want to find out more about it, just email us at support@brightanddark.org, or you can send us a chat on the website. Definitely try to check the messages like in the Facebook group, but because everything gets all reorganized on there depending on the post. So that's why the best way to get in touch with us is just pop us a chat on the website or an email. There is information posted in the members area under the home section. And so, yeah, but we'd love to chat more if anyone's interested. We also have our rituals and revelry. I have to say that slowly, so otherwise I get tongue tied. Rituals and revelry, summer edition. That is a stay-at-home retreat, and that's going to be in June, and that is also posted on the website under retreats. And that is kind of a weekend thing where it starts like in a late afternoon. There's various times throughout the couple of days, and then it finishes in like the morning, depending on what time zone you're in. So times vary depending on your time zone. But we did one already. We got great feedback from that. And so we're doing that again. And on the 28th of April, we're having a workshop, crafting the bond. So this is all about familiars. And so we have that workshop coming up. Let's see, besides that, tomorrow is the 15th. And so we have our foundations dedication, and that is for anybody new to the program that wants to come in and create your dedication candle for foundations. If you've been in the program for a while and you need a new candle, or you just haven't been able to get to a meeting yet, you can always pop in on the 15th of every month and do that ritual with us. This is kind of the time of the month where we start to transition toward looking at gathering our spellcraft supplies for Witch Work Circle on the 21st. And so the workbook is posted in the members area that has everything that you need. And of course, if you get the broom box, you will be getting those supplies, but it's a kind of the time to start to take a look at that at this time of the month, to look at your spellcraft, which is kind of like an outward representation of the internal process that we've been working on. And yeah, lots of puppies. We got puppies happening. Yeah, so I think that's it for me. If anyone has any other announcements, feel free to share. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Maria, for being so freaking magical. Another part of what we're doing between now and the Witchwork Circle, so we're not only gathering our spellcraft supplies, we're also defining our release. What did you identify this month? What belief did you identify this month that no longer serves you? Because we will be doing a release as a part of the ritual when we do the Witchwork Circle. And so the journal prompt and shadow work bit is the process of discovery. And then we do the release, and then we create a support for what this new belief that we are adopting, right? This new perspective and way that we're doing things. Anywho, hi guys. Again, super sleep deprived. Any of you that were at the live this morning, that was a wild ride. But I'm here for it. Like, it's great. And in fact, once we get going, I'm going to shift places and go sit in the whelping box with Stella. So you guys are going to have to see puppies, and I'm so sorry about that. But I need to be like in there because Stella needs me. But how has your last week been, guys? How has it been? Anyone getting any like strong undercurrents or themes in your life? Things that like seem to keep coming up for you? I did a video about it the other day. Like, I usually have tech issues around me. Like, I've been very vocal. I'm super vocal about the fact that I have like tech issues all the time. But the last week is just like, they're the kind of tech issues that are starting to like involve other people. Usually it's only like me, right? I can't get something to work. But it's gotten to where there's people around me that can't get things to work. Like, they do weird things, like going to the grocery store, and the whole thing, the whole system goes down. It just like freezes up, and the poor checkout lady was just like all flustered, and you know how apologetic they are or can be. And I saw it as a great opportunity to just like hang out with her, and we like talked the whole time. But I definitely noted that, wow, that's a little weird, especially because when I was coming into the grocery store, someone was trying to use one of those like electric carts to get out of the grocery store. So we had one of those moments where, we both go through the same door kind of thing. And as soon as we like realized, oh shit, we're like about to collide, the cart dies, and he can't get it to go. And so I step back, and it like goes a little bit forward, and then it dies. And like it would just like inch and die and inch and die. And it was just this like whole thing. So I just like stepped all the way back, and then he was able to like go. And so I was like, well, when things keep happening over and over and over again, we have one of those like really super flat screens in our game room, that it's technically a TV, but it's mostly like attached to YouTube or like images. It shuffles through images. All of a sudden, Bob Ross comes on, this like TV that we've never had it on that channel. We've only had it for like a month. And there's Rufio just sitting there, like deeply enthralled in Bob Ross. And like, it's just like one thing after another, after another, after another. And I'm like, what kind of like Twilight Zone shit is this? Like, where do I need to be paying attention? Because I'm curious if anyone else has had like an uptick in that kind of stuff. Ooh, I mean, down to I'm trying to do my taxes, right? And I cannot get documents to download. I can't do it. And then when I go into like the system, it kept getting me into this loop. I even had to call like tech support to get involved. And they're like, I have no idea what's going on or why it's in this loop. And like all these people are trying to help with this. And like it just like wouldn't happen. And then all of a sudden it like all went through and everything was fine. Uh, but just like that kind of stuff repeatedly. And that's just in the last week. That is in the last week. I'm not getting like weirded out vibes or anything. Go ahead, Roxanne. I don't know why I'm still like, oh, I'm still jabbering on because I've been in a fucking cave with dogs for the last week and haven't had any human contact. So tracks.
It's completely fine. No, I'm experiencing like that same kind of stuff. Electronics like have been funky for a a few weeks now, to the point that I even had to get a new laptop because my laptop just couldn't keep up with everything all of a sudden, like not that old of a laptop and everything. But the most recent thing that was kind of like really extreme to the point where I'm just like, what in the world's going on is I was at a cafe on Friday and I'd gotten my coffee, ordered some food, went to go sit down. And I got my laptop out to do some work and everything, and got so consumed in my work that like 45 minutes to an hour had gone by. I still didn't have my food. And it was the simplest thing. Like, seriously, it only takes them like 5 minutes to prep it because it was like avocado toast or something like that. And I go up there and I'm like, I haven't gotten my food yet. And they were like, we are so sorry that I remember doing it. And I'm just like, they even went onto their computer to check to make sure that it was like typed in. And I'm like, it's okay if you didn't see the order or anything else. I knew it had to be like some kind of electric thing. And I'm just like, I've been dealing with this long enough for the past few weeks that it doesn't even phase me anymore. I just kind of laugh at it. And I was so consumed with my work anyways that it wasn't that big of a deal. But I felt bad for them because I was like, it's okay. But it is, it's like every like my phone is giving me problems lately. Trying to use different apps. They work sometimes. Um, Having problems with websites. My husband had a problem with a website where it didn't even have a way to add things to the cart, like anywhere. Like he even emailed them. They never got back to him. So I don't even know what's going on with the website in general. But yes, it is definitely one thing after another when it comes to electronics, and everything else. And I'm kind of like, I'm ready for this to kind of like be done because everything I do is either on my computer or on my phone. So it's like, let's make my life a little bit easier. So definitely practicing a lot of patience right now and going with the flow of how things want to work or not work. So yes, that is that's been my experience. That's kind of in the same vein. Um, yeah, I'm ready for a break, universe. Just gonna put that out there.
I am going to transfer to my phone and go out there. So carry on. I will be right back. I won't like kick everyone out like I did that one time.
Is anybody else having any tech issues?
Yeah, I was on the Facebook page last night and it wouldn't like let me see comments under like my Maria Luna account. It was that, so that was like strange. And there's been some other things, but that in particular was like really strange.
That reminds me of what my phone does. Like all of a sudden, like there's no keyboard. And I'm like, where did my keyboard go on my phone? So I can like type something in. It just like has been disappearing.
You guys are really quiet.
You just missed out. We got quiet right before you got on. Me and Maria were talking about how she couldn't see her comments on Facebook, and my keyboard on my phone just disappears randomly right now. Can't type anything. It just disappears. And I'm like, guess I'm not meant to do that right now. Go ahead, Danny.
So I'm having a few tech issues, but it's kind of normal stuff for me. I identify with Mercury being retrograde, possibly after the eclipse. I'm wondering if it's okay to change the subject a little.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because what I'm noticing is I'm having these very strong intuitions of closure, not loss, but closure that needs to be mourned, and then new beginnings. And also, I have a guide that keeps coming in and going, really? Like with my thoughts, going, really? Is that what you really believe? Because it's like I'm Alice in Wonderland, so it's Wonderland time, and it's like, no, it's not what you think it is. Sit with it, see what it really is, be in its presence. And it has been good to sit with it and be in its presence. And there's a part of me that really wants me to like freak out and push it away and scream no. But thankfully, that's pretty small. And so it's mostly just kind of like, oh, like this whole, like, I feel like I'm in a master class right now with illusion and revelation. So I'm wondering if anybody else is having any of that.
Go ahead, Maria.
Yes, I am. Yeah, like I'm experiencing similar to the like what you said about the like kind of closure on some things, which has been like interesting and kind of came up unexpectedly. But yes, I just wanted to let you know that I really resonated with what you said, and the last couple of days have had like similar experiences. I'm driving, so I will stop talking now. We're quiet. Danny, I can weigh in a little bit if that's okay. More.
That'd be great because everything you're saying, I mean, it's not stuff that I'm like I know it needs to go. And there's like a new part of me that feels like reawakened. I was having a walk today. Took myself out to the nature center. I live in a fairly urban area, so anyway, and I love it out there. And I feel like I saw every animal that I was and bug and bird I was supposed to see. Um, it was crazy, including two deer, which was a real treat because it was so peoply there towards the end when I saw the deer. But I also just had this really strong like reawakening of who I was when I was a child, and I could go outside and remember who I was, and I wasn't um the person I was told I was. And it struck me so much I was like voice recording so I could remember um the feeling signature of it. But yes, please weigh in. That's all. I'm
Yeah,
done.
totally. So some of my shifts, and I feel like it's very connected to like what you're saying and maybe like relevant. So like I'll share like some of the shifts that I'm experiencing right now is about like breaking out of the fix it, being the fix it person, or like feeling like someone's going through something and I need to like come to the rescue and tell you like all this information that maybe I'm getting or downloading or whatever, or trying to be a help. But it's like so much just about like kind of witnessing and like validating and just like being that kind of listener and like holding the space like more so than ever. And just knowing that like kind of not times where like something happened between someone that I've been off and on friends with for the last 25 years. And there was some very pingy like parts of it, but I could have like reacted to like that I did something wrong or get defensive and stuff like that. But I was like, getting the strong message, like this is like, you're just here to listen. And so I kind of like just felt into that and stayed with that. But what I wanted to say to you is just validating your experience that when we start to, and so many of us have gone through like what you're going through, like when, like, I feel like what you explained, like you just like unpeeled so many layers at like a rapid pace. Like that's a lot to uncover quickly, and like getting that. And maybe, I don't know if what you experienced before, but when we start to engage like with the deconstruction in as witches, like with the magical part, like it's just amazing to see like when you get those clicks, those aha moments, the synchronicities, it's always like I don't know if it'll never not be mind-blowing to me, like how quickly some of that stuff just starts to like, I don't know, like you tapping into like that authenticity or your truest self and things like that. And you just really start to feel that and like know that truth like in your bones. So I just wanted to validate that experience. I think that that's amazing. And it is something that a lot of the witches that have come through here, like that tends to happen, and it can happen quickly. And with that, another thing that's like been pinging for me that I feel like is kind of connected is that the experience is not linear. And so it's like we are still like having these like amazing experiences and kind of like, like our foot, one in the earthly plane, one in another, right? Like as witches, we kind of like straddle the line. But that we're still like kind of having this human experience. So sometimes we can experience these like amazing things, which is awesome. And then, we kind of like get into our feelings sometimes. And like, that's okay too, because it's going to ebb and flow. And that's just part of our experience. And now we might choose to like navigate things a little differently. And we're like, we know that like the data that we're collecting is like very important, but I felt like, I don't know, I just felt called to mention too, like that the experience does kind of ebb and flow, especially like with such a rapid like pace that sometimes we experience things, at least in this community. That's kind of been my experience. And so, but like, I don't know, I'm just so happy for you and excited. I just feel like that's awesome. And with this like spring energy, just feels like you're so in like alignment with that. And I too, like with the planets and Mercury being in the microwave, it was interesting because I recently like was looking, like I really didn't pay too much attention. Astrology kind of goes over my head sometimes, but I learned like I'm a Gemini rising and connected to Mercury, so I actually feel like more empowered with it. So I have been feeling a little bit empowered, but also like experiencing major anxiety. Like I feel like I'm always in like this duality. But anyways, that's a little bit of a side quest. But Danny, like so awesome, and feel free to like respond if you feel like anything resonated or if it didn't, or whatever you would like to share.
That was actually beautiful. Thank you very, very much. I'm also Gemini rising. And what I'm finding is, and I'm really into astrology. So this whole month of April is all in my like relationship, deep past, ancestral past stuff, especially what's going to start this week and go through the end of April and beginning into May. And so I have a tendency, I've noticed, to like be ahead. Like I experience things ahead of when whatever the so-called astrological event is going to happen. So that helped to figure that out. But everything you said, it makes so much sense. And you're not the first person that I talked to who's like, dang, you're going through some of this really fast. And like, I don't feel like I have a choice. I really feel like my guides are like, oh, good, you're paying attention. Let's go. So strap in, we're on the roller coaster and we're going to do this. So when I was hearing you speak, one thing I heard is, and it's okay to be as tired as you are and slow down and just like chill and not worry too much about what's coming next or what in fact is really ending and all that stuff. Was the subtext I was receiving. I don't know if you were intending that too, but I just wanted to share that. as well.
No,
But thank you so much.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely like endings and beginnings, or the perception of endings and beginnings have been highlighted, like for me for sure, this weekend. Like
Yeah.
when you kind of like, as we kind of like dive into things, like I think some of you have heard us say, like sometimes it's like finding the language sometimes as you like get into it is like hard, because it's like, are there really endings and beginnings? Like we experience like the feelings and like the perception. This is like, these are the conversations that I have with myself, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, where it's just kind of like a cycle of things, or like, I'm definitely like experience that energy signature, like of endings and beginnings, but in like the way that I may have experienced.
Maria, if you can hear me, you froze.
Speaking of tech issues.
Exactly.
Oh, she muted. She could hear you.
Yeah. All right. I guess I'll hand it over to you, Ocean.
Thank you. Oh, and now she's gone. Oh, there you are. Do you want to finish what you were saying?
Oh, I was just passing it off to you. Yeah, I pulled into my driveway, so Zoom was like, we need to switch back onto the internet. So that's what happened. I think I think I'm good. I said I saw your hand go up and down, so I didn't know if you wanted to weigh in.
I do, yes. Um, yeah, new beginnings are a really big and grieving what I'm releasing is a really big thing right now for me too. I actually just entered my Saturn return this last month. And it's like feeling like an intensive of the shadow work I've been doing these past few years of uh like applying what I've learned so far. Um and also celebrating the awareness, because I think that like sometimes we become aware of something and we're like wanting to take action immediately from what we understand, instead of like taking a moment to be like, wow, my brain like learned this and I'm experiencing this and I've never had this much awareness before. And awareness is like the biggest precursor to change. um and I'm also learning that there is not always direct action needed. I also like how Maria said, like, take time to rest and uh rejuvenate and stuff. And that helps you also recognize, wow, I've been doing this much work. My body and my mind and my soul are tired because we've been working, because we've been uh practicing. um and also intention is coming up a lot for me today. um the ways in which I coped with the situations that I'm now grieving and letting go of, um, I'm seeing the fruits of those and knowing how I want to do better. And so I'm learning how to plant better. I'm learning how to nourish the seeds better. I'm learning better placement, better, you know, I'm learning to put in structures for watering. Like it's planting has been coming up for me in so many metaphors. Like for like I want to say like 6 months now. So I'm really feeling the those metaphors. um And yeah, I don't know. I want to reiterate that it's okay to take the time to grieve. Sometimes when you think that you already understood something and it comes back up, it's kind of frustrating. And so sitting with that frustration with compassion and sitting with that that catalyst that's coming back up is a really great way to not only acknowledge your progress in that area, but also it gives you more insight into why what you needed from that catalyst, not why. Because why is a distraction. Why it happened can almost never be answered, because it already happened. It's so far away. I mean, I guess I'm thinking of my own catalyst that came up, but it's what can I learn from this going forward. That is where the real medicine is, in my opinion. At least that's how it's been for me. I'm going to go ahead and pass it off unless you have anything you'd like to respond to.
I'm
Next,
good.
Ezra. Okay, next is
Hello. One of the things that came up when you guys were talking was like that you don't always have to respond to things. That definitely has been coming up a lot. Um, like I had a conversation like with my grandma, and I realized that like when I hear her complain about something, or anyone really, my thought is that like, oh, so what are we doing about the situation? That and like always end up falling back into that like and I realized that again, like I've gotten a lot better about like trying not to fix things, but when it comes to people that are close to me, I like want to fix things for them or with them, and it always ends up frustrating me that that isn't um what they wanted. And so I have had to, like, as soon I remember being in the conversation with her, and I was just like, oh yeah, I don't have to do anything about that. And she was like, no, I didn't want you to do anything about it. That was like it was just like another one, like a revelation I've had like again and again, that I don't have to do anything about that, about um whatever path other people are on. um and one of the things that I like, communication hasn't been bad for me. I say like, I mean, I'm a Gemini sun and Virgo rising. So the that's a lot of like, it feels like those two signs are like constant, are like there's like a circle that Mercury is like flying around between those two signs, um around my um around my Capricorn moon. But um the what has been happening is it's actually felt like things are going a lot faster. I think somebody else said that too. And it feels like the next phase of a lot of things is like I was in a waiting period, and now suddenly like they're like clicking back into place, and they're like, okay, this is the next um steps that you have to take. And like everything is like, this is very spring energy, but it's like everything's like buzzing, and they're just like, okay, and the next thing, like I just kind of got like a picture of like this flower that's blooming and in our yard, and like basically like it bloomed like super big, and then it has all these like little bulbs that are about to like little uh, baby flowers that are about to bloom. And so like as that one falls away, the next one's blooming, and then like as that one falls away, the next one's blooming. And that's kind of what it feels like right now, is this like one thing's closing and the next thing's opening, and then one thing's closing and the next thing's opening. That kind of feeling. And like even just today, there were 4 different places that people wanted me to be. And I decided I was just gonna stay home and go to SASS. Like right now, like 3 other things other than SASS were happening at 2 p.m. that I was like asked to go to. And I was like, Sunday's like usually in my rest day. So this just felt like a better option. But that's like keeps on happening, where it's just like, oh, okay. And Wednesday there are 3 things that I could go to. And that feels like a communication thing. Like it's like, which of these things, like it's like the universe is saying, like, which of these things are you going to do? And there's like little path like explosions like that everywhere, because if I went to the other one, like I'm sure I would find, breadcrumbs over there. And if I go to this one, I find breadcrumbs over here. And it's really just about making those choices and being satisfied with those choices without like feeling like FOMO, or like maybe or like getting in that headspace of like, maybe I should have gone over there, where we're shooting ourselves. And that is how this Mercury retrograde is happening for me. And with that Gemini Virgo thing too, I just was looking it up, and I was talking about how Gemini is about output and expression, and Virgo is about input and processing. And I really like that, because it feels like that's just like constantly. I even said I've said like for years, long before I got into astrology, that I have input and output mode. And so like I can't like take on new like media, like someone wants me to watch a new TV show, and I'm like, no, I can't, I'm not on input mode. I'm on output mode. I can't be watching that new thing. Like you can put something I've already seen on in the background while I like draw or write or play music or talk or whatever it is, but I can't do that right now. And I've had the exact opposite thing happen, where like I just go weeks without creating anything, but I'm like researching and watching TV shows and like listening a lot more, and just so that's interesting. That's what it feels like, is I'm kind of getting more connected to what my own cycles of are of everything, I guess. Which kind of brought me back to another thing too. We're working on embodiment this last month, and that's been a huge thing. My communication with my body has been like, ever since I started healing, that's been a big thing. But like since Bright and Dark and I started recording things, I look back at like when I first joined Bright and Dark, and that was one of that and my relationship with money has been coming up, and everything, it's all connected too. Like it's like all very similar trains of thought, I'm realizing. And like a lot often I will realize that I'll dig down to like a childhood experience that like disconnected me from my body. And it's usually also related to how I have interpreted money in my life somehow. And anyway, what happened the other day was like a really cool thing. I went to go lay my head back down after I realized that I didn't have to get up quite as early as I'd gotten up. And so I was like half asleep. I wasn't quite asleep, but I was having this kind of like in between dream, I guess, because it wasn't quite a daydream, but I also didn't choose to have it. So it was like kind of a dream or I guess a vision or something. But it was just a man like coming into a cafe as if he'd just gotten back from the gym, and he walks up to the counter and he's just like, I need protein. I need protein immediately. And that was the whole dream sequence that I had. And I was like, was that my body telling me that it needed protein? Like through this dream sequence, like this visual, like an auditory, like dialogue thing. And then I was like, okay, I'll get up and get you like a string cheese in a second. like that kind of thing. And then, and because I didn't want to get up yet. I was like, I'm realizing like I'm hungry now. And I'm like, but I don't want to get up. And then literally a minute later, my mom knocks on the door and is like, I'm making eggs. Do you want eggs? And I was like, okay, well, I guess that's what I'm doing now. And it was just like a very interesting, like, series of events that made me like happy that I translated a message like from my body accurately. And then the universe was just like, here you go, through my mom. So yeah, I think that's about it. Let's see who's next. Maya Wolf. I don't know why I had to say your whole name, probably just because I like the last name.
I've also had the theme of embodiment and like working or on the relationship with my body come up a lot since the eclipse, especially. It's been a big theme for me over the last year and a half of actually listening to my body and actually doing something about it because I'm pretty terrible at doing both. I always ignore it, but it really came to a head recently because I was on this new medication that I've never been on before, and I was having horrible side effects and horrible symptoms from it. And then I finally talked to my doctor, and she was like, "Why would you put yourself through that? Just stop taking it. Like your body's clearly telling you it's not working, so stop taking it." And I was like, "Oh, that seems like a reasonable thing to do. That never crossed my mind. I just thought I had to tough through it and stick it out." She was like, "No, no, ma'am. We don't do that around here. Listen to yourself next time." So that's been a huge thing. And now my body is giving me like bigger repercussions for not listening prior. So yeah, it's been a big thing for me this month and the last like year. So
Maria, are those new glasses? I was just noticing them. I don't think I've seen them on you before.
Oh, yes, they are new. These are my official snow tubing glasses. You might wonder, why do you need snow tubing glasses? So I love to do like winter activities up in New Hampshire in the mountains. And I tried skiing, and I don't know, I might give it another go, but it was kind of the first, I took like a group class, and I was like sweating, and I was like, anyhow, may try it again, but I don't know if I'm aligned with skiing, but I love snow tubing. And my boyfriend and I go like to like different snow tubing runs. And so this is like a long story about why I have these glasses, but everybody's quiet. So um I needed glasses that I could fit my goggles over. Because when like we go like the tubing, like the snow gets in your face and stuff. And so these are my glasses, but I really liked them and I liked the pink, so I've been wearing them more. So thank you for noticing my glasses. And Taryn has their hand up.
Hi. I got distracted earlier, but I wanted to go back to something that Roxanne was talking about. For me, I feel like it's like there's been two people occupying my space. There's been that little girl who believed in magic and spent, my whole life in the background going, yeah, but you don't really think that. We think this. And then there's that person that got conditioned and went along with. So when I first started in March and the prompt was about your inner child playing and stuff, it was like perfect because that was right where I was at. So I thought, well, this isn't going to be too bad because I've already thought these things. It was just I haven't been around other people who thought like me. And so, not that it would be easy, but that it wouldn't be quite as difficult because it's not like I'm having to listen to someone else's point of view and then alter mine. Does that make sense? Like, because in the background, there's the me that already believed it. But but saying goodbye to that part of me that went along, that's like really harder than I thought it was going to be. Like, I don't even really know how to describe it, but at first I thought I was going through some kind of depression or something, but it didn't make sense because, I'm high from all this, excitement of finding foundations and all that stuff. But yeah, that part is I don't even really, it's not really a loss, but I don't know. I don't really even know how to describe it, but it's just, I don't know, it's just weird. Like, why did you think that? Why did you do that now? Like, now my inner child in her little sarcastic way is coming forward going, see, I told you. So, yeah, that's what I got.
Are you open to a weigh-in, Taryn?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Sure.
I wanted to ask, like, does it feel like it's kind of touching on or exploring your relationship with like safety and acceptance and protect, like kind of like being protected? But what pinged like mostly for me was like safety.
Yeah, because I've never felt safe letting her out because when she did come out as a little child and said, hey, mom, there's these little people that come and talk to me at night. And I said, oh, it's just your imagination. You're crazy. And so the more I would tell about these little stories, experiences that I would have, they would just say, oh, you're just saying that for attention. It's just your imagination. And I actually had a remembering of some things that, like everything's now like all these dots are connecting. But yeah, just it's yeah, it's weird feeling safe to express yourself. If
I
that makes
wonder if
sense.
that's too like where you're kind of experiencing like the both, like you said, kind of like as two, like as you kind of work through of like feeling like it is safe, and right now your body is like still working through that, that process of it. But
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
That still comes up for me too sometimes, like you know, I'm open in a lot of spaces about like my practice and stuff, and but there's sometimes that I'm not. And I kind of like do this kind of data collection, you know, with myself, and it's kind of like an authenticity check sometimes about like, you know, sometimes I have been in spaces and like left and like knowing that I wasn't really feeling like authentic, and maybe some old conditioning like had come back up. And I mean, I think that for me, I just that, you know, it's going to happen from time to time, but I kind of try to kind of think about what was like that core emotion or the core feeling. And a lot of times maybe it was, you know, a lot of times fear comes up, you know, and just like exploring, you know, my relationship with fear and that connection, you know, as it's like going from the inner child's work now to the body work of like actually that practice of like feeling safe in your body, you know. But thank you for sharing that, Taryn.
Yeah, and just to say like overprotecting myself now to the extent that when I first um started, like it's I have to watch what I post on my personal profiles because this person or that person, not so much that I would offend them, but I just don't want their feedback or their opinion. So I literally started new profiles on all social media. And if you look, you'll see I have no friends because I don't want any influences while I'm on this part of my journey, except for those who think like me. If- I mean, that may sound selfish, but everybody's just gonna have to do without me on social media for a while. And when I feel like I'm got my feet back, under me witchy wise, then I'll say, hey, guess what? Your mom's a witch.
I love your fox picture, by the way. I just keep looking at it.
Thanks. I stole it somewhere. I'm not sure where, but I wish I did because I'd love to have a print of it.
Go ahead, Isabel. I see that you're unmuted, but I'm not hearing you.
Hello?
We can hear you now.
Hello? No, it's not going to work.
Oh, no, we can
Hello.
hear you now, Isabel.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. Well, Taryn, I identified with what you just said. I think one of the most difficult things for me starting with Bright and Dark was not to start, but in fact to kind of hide all of my profiles, my everything from my I am 54 and I'm still having to hide from my parents, whom I don't have a relationship with anymore. And I did that for my own protection. But we grew up in a highly religious and environment where you were looked down upon if you were not a sheep, and not wanting to get that phone call from my siblings or my parents, I've had to just completely disconnect and having to walk that rope of what's sane and what isn't, because there's a point where I thought, well, if I've already severed some of the relationships that I've had, why am I still having to hide from whom I've identified as for all my life? In fact, my mom knew it since I was very young, but she just never wanted to face it. I told her many times and she still didn't. And just having to kind of keep the peace for me, I'm just speaking for myself, having to hide that has been difficult. It weighs heavily on my shoulders. I mentioned last week that in part, one of the reasons why I didn't show my face on my profile with when I'm on video with the group is one, shame. There's a lot of shame that comes with how I grew up. Secondly, it's that fear of being recognized by the people that I know or knew. Not so much my husband and my children. They know they're perfectly fine. But having to come into terms and being okay with who I am, wherever I am, it's been a slow process. So I hear you. Maybe there's similarities and there aren't some, but for me, it's just weighed heavily to have to interact life in such a way where I almost feel like I'm still being condemned for speaking my truth. You said something else about maybe not being validated for what you saw or how you saw the world growing up. And in fact, when I would tell my mom, this is what I saw, I was always chastised by my family. Yeah, I'm making it up to call attention, or I'm liar. That was their famous line for me, that I was a liar for feelings that I had about certain things, fears or what have you. And having to run away from my past, I thought, so I thought by running away from it and hiding it, that would solve the problem. But thankfully, I have to say, with Bright and Dark, I'm thankfully, and it's been kind of a kick in the ass, that now I'm having to face those fears and they're coming back to me. And now I'm having to deal with them and not hide anymore, but address these issues. And it's a little harder than I thought it was going to be. But I too don't say that it's easier because I've found a community, but it isn't. It's definitely, like you said, not as hard. I feel everyone's support. So for that, I'm always very grateful. But in many aspects, you're not alone. And I feel that too. And that's all I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Stephanie, you can go ahead.
Isabel, I resonated with a lot of what you said because I've had to give it a lot of thought myself lately as well. Part of my journey in this program has been spending a lot of time learning the history of what we do and how we practice and how it's been accepted into, the society, and it hasn't always been safe. And so your feelings of not feeling safe to do that are completely valid. It has not been safe for people to be loud and proud in all situations throughout history. And while hopefully improved for some of us in some places. There's still situations and certain areas where it is simply not safe to do so. And so a couple of weeks ago, I was going down the rabbit hole on which names, right? Like a lot of people use which names on social media, and something similar to their own, or however they came about them. And I was trying to figure out, like, would that be something that would work? Would I want to do? Do I feel the need to do it? Just sort of questioning it. And, why would some people choose to do it? And as I kind of went down that rabbit hole, I really think that most of the time it is to create a safe space for them to be able to um, be who they are and be in those communities and still remain safe. But funny story, if you're called to tell it. I was driving to the dentist office a couple of weeks ago, and I had this really random thought that Sarsaparilla Jones would be a hilarious witch name for me. What? Sarsaparilla Jones? Like, I don't even know a thing about sarsaparilla. I don't. Maybe I've thought about it once in my life, but not a lot. So I went to my dentist appointment, and then I felt like I should go to the nearby metaphysical store. I didn't need anything, right? There was just nothing that I felt that I needed, but I was like, well, I'm nearby, so let's go. And I did a lap around the store, and then I was going to leave, and I look, and what is right in front of me but a bag of sarsaparilla? I was like, all right, so we're going to play this game today. I'm just going to follow all these breadcrumbs as if I'm the most wise psychic in the world. It's a practice. It's the book Psychic Witch, where you spend a day like just trusting that you are the most knowledgeable psychic that there is, and you follow your breadcrumbs as if they are 100% true. So I was like, all right, we'll go with this. I'll buy some sarsaparilla. I have no idea why. I have no idea what I need it for. And as the man was filling my bag for me, I told him the story, this inspiration of my sarsaparilla Jones name. And he said, oh, that's funny. I just got married. And before I got married, my last name was Jones. And I went, sarsaparilla Jones. And his face, just went white. I mean, he works at a metaphysical store, so I'm surprised that I surprised him at all. But yeah, and then I come home, and as I go learn more about sarsaparilla, it actually has a lot of correspondences and uses for a lot of things that I'm facing physically and stuff right now, hormonal wise and hair loss wise that I have. So I was like, well, glad I followed those breadcrumbs, but it still got me really thinking about, even at times like this, I use my first name. I don't use my last name. I always question the recordings, and, I just think about it, do I want my face on here? And I'm kind of walking that line right now where I'm like way more out about it. But, I think that's really all I have to say about the subject, except that I really relate to what you guys were saying about, um, the visibility in this practice, and that I think we all need to give ourselves a little bit of grace in that, and just decide on what we're comfortable with in any given day, and accept that that's okay in that moment. And that is all I have this morning. I'm not sure who had their hand up next, if it was Ezra or Maria. I'm not sure.
It is
it Maria?
Ezra.
Oh, Ezra? Okay, Ezra, go ahead.
Maria, you can go first.
Oh, all right. Mine is like kind of just really quick, like what I kind of like experiencing is like, because when I started Bright and Dark too, we were in like the COVID bubble, and now I'm experiencing with like being out and about a little bit more and stuff like that. And it's like, not only is it the safety thing is a huge one, but then is also like, when you say you're a witch, like everyone just has their own idea of what that means. And it's like, there's, like, I don't know, like it's so hard because like you say that, but I don't feel it like it always like that is true. I'm a witch, but it's like, but this is the way I witch. You know, like this is my practice, that these are my beliefs, like this is what I'm doing. And I find that is hard and sometimes exhausting, like, because then you want to like engage in a conversation that maybe I don't know, has energy to like engage in the conversation, but sometimes I do feel inspired to like get into it. But it's like, I don't know, coming up with like a tagline, like I'm a witch, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't know, you know, because it's just, I find that it's like, it's so much easier when I'm talking to y'all because we have like, we're forming like this, you know, like we're like the connection and what we talk about. And so like, we kind of just flow in and out of conversations and things like that with pretty much with ease. And of course, there's a lot of like, you know, moments or maybe uncovering, peeling back layers that happen, but there is an ease in which we connect and communicate in our spaces here that is like, yeah, I mean, it happened like the other day and someone said something to me and I internalized it as like, they thought, I'm like, are you thinking I did something? Like I like spelled something on you? Like it was kind of heading in that. And I was like appalled because I was like, I don't do that. Like, I always like, you know, consent is important and I don't like do that. I don't do practice magic like that. And I never have. It was actually the reason why I never practiced witchcraft when I was younger, like when I started my divination practice, because I've like mentioned this so many times, but like where I was like in the 90s, it was all about like Wicca around me. And I was like, oh no. So like I'll do like these bits of things and this, and like I'll do tarot and crystals and mediumship, but I'm not a witch. Until like I actually learned what a witch was and all the different in ways in which you can practice. And so anyhow, yeah, I've just experienced that the other day, and I've just kind of like, I'm not quite, I I don't was going to bring it up today because I'm still like mulling it over and how like I was feeling about someone perceiving that I might have done something like intentionally to like affect their life. So that's an interest, like it's just a, yeah, just what's coming up. Ezra.
So I was making some connections between all the things that we were talking about, things like embodiment and communication with the body, and and then also this like not being able to, like, the subjugation of witches essentially, and like making people stay quiet about it. And there's this book that I got like 3 years ago before I even like was accepting magic in my life. I had a friend that recommended it, and it's called Caliban and the Witch. And it is it's very dense, like it's like got super small writing, and it's like a lot, it's very sciencey. It's like has a lot of studies in it. And then yes, Caliban and the Witch. And I just wanted to read a little bit of the back of it, because it's like everything we're talking about, and also like how it's related to the world. It like suddenly struck me, and I had to pull this off the shelf, because I was like, it was like calling to me. So Federici, who is the author, shows that the birth of the working class required a war against women, inaugurating a new sexual pact and a new patriarchal era, the patriarchy of the wage, firmly rooted in the history of the persecution of witches and the disciplining of the body. Her arguments explain why the subjugation of women was as crucial for the formation of the world working class as the enclosures of the land, the conquest and colonization of the New World, and the slave trade. And like basically, it's all about how in order to demonize women and queer people. They did that in order to create a, the kind of fundamental problem that we are in today with, people considered capital. And that specifically, like, I've thought a lot about, like, ever since I, joined Bright and Dark, like, at first I had this kind of frustration about, like, why aren't there more resources? Like, Bright and Dark's a resource center, and I really like that term because I like source as a as a term, like, for, instead of God, or I mean, I like universe too, but I like source. I think it gets right to the point. And the whatchamacallit. And so I had that frustration in the beginning, like, why isn't this, like, more like, I wasn't coming from this perspective of, like, I spent my whole life, or even a great portion of my life, hiding the fact I was a witch, because I was, like, the person who was saying, like, oh, that's not real. Like, and so once I got over that frustration, like, I remember having a point where I was like, oh, like, literally women and queer people have been murdered and institutionalized and, like, basically put in prison, and like, there has been a genocide and against people over, like, historically, who say that magic is real. Like, essentially, like, they're, actively have been harmed. And so coming to that, like, I remember reading about all of that when I was interested in growing up, but it wasn't until I realized that I was a witch that I was, like, seeing it from that other perspective. And so I think I just wanted to, like, talk about that book for a second, because I really have been meaning to read all of it. I started it, but again, it's just very dense, and, like, I think it's going to be very important for me to read. But the way that I just wanted to validate, like, how people feel about keeping this a secret from people, because there are, like, some I think Taryn in the comments just, like, said, like, people have called the police on them before. And there's definitely, like, at some point I was looking at, like, my corner of the room that's, like, my, where I set up altars and stuff like that, and, like, someone could look at that and be really creeped out. I was thinking about that the other day. Like, I have, like, there's, like, a tarot card of the devil, and and, like, and tarot cards, which some people are inherently scared of. And, like, just so many, like, books that say witchcraft on it. And so there could be easily somebody that looks over here and is just like, what the hell are you doing? Right. And so I wanted to validate that, and also it just makes me, like, really happy to see people on here, like, and embracing this side of themselves, even though it is so scary. And I think that that's, like, I think that we're, like, on the path of liberation, and that conversations like this that we're having in SASS Mass, and Bright and Dark at large, like, is ultimately, like, proof that there is like that the liberation of women and queer people and witches is happening. And so that just made me really happy to see. I think that's it. Let's see who is next. Maya is next. Maya Wolf.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that I've had a similar experience. Like none of my family knows about my practice and I active like the only people that know is my mom, who's kind of excommunicated from my family in a way, which is kind of a dramatic way of saying it. But she's definitely the black sheep and no one really listens to her. And obviously my husband also knows. But whenever we go visit my family, I constantly have to remind him like, hey, don't talk about my practice. Don't talk about what I do. Don't talk to your friends at work about me or anything like that, just because of the stigma that goes behind it and kind of the fear of being looked at differently just because of what I believe in. And I feel like a lot of people on here feel that way. So it's really great to have this space of kind of freedom in a way to be able to express how we feel and what we think and our spiritual beliefs, which is awesome. But there's still a lot of work to go into just in normal society and within our own families of just being able and open to talk about these things. So I just wanted to share that, like, no one here is alone. A lot of people have experienced this and continue to, and it's just something that we all have to work on, I guess, and all the communities around us have to work on. So yeah, I'm not sure who's next either.
That is okay. I've got you. Renee's next.
Sorry. My stupid I'm on my phone, so it was rebelling against me. So these are just, I don't know, maybe tips of what have worked for me. Like one thing is I kind of like to baffle people with bullshit. So like if it comes up that I'm a witch, I'll just be like, I'm a secular chaos witch, you know? And so then instead of just saying witch, then they're like, what? And usually they tend to be more like freaked out by the word chaos, I think, than the word witch. But um and then I was also just thinking about how like Maria had this encounter where someone like automatically thought, you know, oh my gosh, somebody did something to me. Um and I was just thinking like, I don't know, like there's so many cynical, you know, people. Like when I was in France, I noticed like someone would ask you about yourself and like if you said I'm a jazz bass player, they'd be like, that's so cool. And like it was like, okay, they said this is what they are, this is what they are. Whereas like if in America somebody said, what do you do? And I said, I'm a jazz bass player, they'd be like, oh really? Well, where do you play? Well, blah 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 blah. Like you'd have to give like your whole resume to like somehow kind of back it up or validate it. If it's not like some mainstream thing, I'm not a jazz bass player, by the way. I mean, like, but you know, um, I'm just using it as an example. But yeah, so I kind of think like on the opposite side of the coin, like there's a lot of people that probably will challenge, you know, the notion of someone being a witch, especially if you don't look like what in their mind is like a stereotypical um witch. So I just wanted to put that in there. And like I said, um you know, you can make your title very flowery and confusing, and that's kind of the way I like to do it. So but I also like to just make my everyday life performance art if I have the opportunity to do that. So um, I am not sure who is next.
I've
I'm
got
gonna let
you.
the moderator pass it out. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ocean is next.
Oh, that came up fast. I I thought there were more people in front of me. Yeah, so not gonna lie, I kind of forgot a little bit what I wanted to say. I'm sitting here painting and listening to you guys and just participating energetically in the conversation. Like in my head, I'm like responding and I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good point. Um, but what was it that I wanted to say? Oh yeah, I wanted to share my experience with being ostracized for being a witch from my family. Because it didn't happen as violently as I expected it to. Um, it was more of a slow sort of like thing that happened, but it's really a good thing. And I know that sounds strange, but so I'm gonna try to make it quick because I don't want to take up like a whole bunch of time. But um, my parents and I have like had already had sort of a volatile, or not volatile, like a unstable relationship. Like we just weren't super connected. They just didn't really understand me, you know, very much black sheep situation, like a lot of us. And we were working on repairing our relationship. I was applying nonviolent communication. I was sharing with them about my practice and my life. And I actually ended up being the one to um, like go back into. I was originally, okay, I'm sorry, this is a little bit out of order. I have ADHD. Originally my family sort of pushed me out because I wasn't able to keep a mundane job. And there were just some butting heads going on. And then we started to repair our relationship, and then I actually, last autumnal convergence, and it's so funny that we're talking about tech issues because if I had not had a tech issue that weekend, it would have ruined my whole weekend. But I had gotten an email from my dad wanting to, it was like a forward of like some sort of pastor talking about witches and what happens in his perspective to witches when they die. And it was just a really disappointing thing to receive after thinking that I was going through like this process of helping them understand a little bit more deeply about me. And it really ended up being um, a huge step in my practice to set boundaries with myself um, in accordance with my family. Because as somebody who's inclined to be a healer and inclined to be um, somebody who wants to share information and help people um, like understand themselves more deeply, I realized that I was doing that to my detriment and that I wasn't ever going to be able to like save quote unquote like anybody else because they didn't want to be saved. In fact, my dad was trying to save me. He's like, I'm actually worried about you. And I was like, oh, you're harming me by trying to care about me. And that's not love. Um, so because my boundaries weren't being respected, I chose to go back into like not speaking to my family, and I decided to go full on into my practice because I think that social change has to come from within societies. And I think I'm like, as a white person, as a trans person, and as the straight up weirdo that I am, like, and especially being called to being a witch, it feels like one of my callings is to be seen and to be out loud about um, being a witch and to kind of make visible the good and the compassionate and the kindness that uh, that are witches. Like that's I would never describe a witch like it's so funny how much I didn't understand about witches, and I'd really just been drawing from like media attention before I really met actual witches. Um, and I think that a lot of people have those images and those ideas in their head. And then that's a whole other conversation about how media is used to control our social perceptions. But I think that my favorite thing, I know this is like, it's related though. My favorite thing about Jen Marie is that her shocking kindness. Like in moments where it is the most difficult to be compassionate with somebody else, I've seen her do it so swiftly. And I think that that's what made me really want to be a witch, was like, oh, witches can be nice. So I know that you're a nice person, Maria, and I'm sorry that your friend couldn't see that. And I'm going to pass it off to Miss Isabel.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. It's just that I had some difficulty. Okay, so I'm not changing the topic. I just had a brief memory of kind of knowing, like looking back and thinking, gosh, I knew so early on what I was without knowing. And I thought this was just, I hold this memory very dear to my heart. I don't know how old I was, maybe 5 or 6. I don't remember. But I just know that I was small. And I remember my mom getting a mason jar from under my bed and asking what it was. And I came out with my answer, which was, oh, magic, fairy, something. I don't remember exactly what my response was. What I do remember is that at a very young age, I was trying to do my own spell. Who knows what I put in it? I know I created fungus. That came true. And it was my very first memory of thinking like, oh, I was doing it before I had any knowledge of what I was doing. But from there on, my mom kept finding jars of whatever I was crafting. I knew to myself that I was trying to make a spell, but my mom thought I was just doing experiments. And that was it. I just wanted to share that because right now it popped in my mind that I wanted to share this before. And I thought that was one of the very few sweet memories that I have of my childhood. And with that, I pass it on. I'm not sure who's next.
I've got you. Maria's next.
Thank you.
I wanted to just kind of follow up. So the interaction that I had with this person, I didn't get, there wasn't like a space in that moment. Maybe there will be at a later time for me to like kind of ask more clarifying questions that I wanted to. But so whether, I don't really know how they're feeling about maybe the thought that I had put in something out there. And it was funny because it's like the words that different people use, and because it's all kind of like magic to me, but like what, like Isabel, like what you were saying, like like people like call it experiments, but like we call it magic, and it's like one and the same to me, but it's like just the words that we use to like find that kind of like acceptability, or for other people too. But the interaction that I had, it really, like what kind of struck me was my, like the way that I responded to even the thought that that person might be thinking that. And like I said, I didn't have the opportunity to fully like flesh that out and like have that kind of conversation, but it was like immediately apparent to me of like the reaction that I was having and how I was like in how I like internalized that and how I responded to even that idea, you know, that someone may have thought that I um that even broached on that, you know, that topic. And so it was more, I took it as more of just something like for data for me, for something that I wanted to kind of look a little bit more at and you know, kind of talk about. And you know, that it's like I think it comes back like Jen Marie has talked about it on the TikToks. And I saw something come up. It was a woman that works with witches in a professional capacity, and what she was describing is like how like the witch wound comes up, and that was like her specialty in like navigating, you know, witches and their any kind of business, like witchy or mundane world, and how like that witch wound comes up. And you know, it's a lot about like, you know, a lot of fears and anxieties that kind of come up with that. So it was just, I felt like important for me to say, and like as we're talking too about like outwardly and like the perception of like the community or families, but in at the end, you know, in really it's kind of like how we're internalizing that and our kind of reactions to that. And yeah, like how that is coming up. And I think being in the foundations program, I mean, probably the reason why I'm going like round 3 with going through a lot of, you know, these things is because it's like peeling back the layers. And it is like um I wanted to say complicated, but that doesn't really feel like it. I guess you know, it's complex in the way where it's multi-layered, you know, where it's like rich. And just knowing having this experience of like, you know, like a lot of us have mentioned like, oh, we feel like we've kind of worked through this, and then like something happens, like I had that interaction, and I really had like a fear response to it, and like a worry about being judged, or fear of like I was, you know, fear that someone thought I was like maybe hurting them. But it was all mine. Like it was, you know, it was all the way that I was kind of reacting, responding, and I was aware of that and kind of was able to like hold space for the catalyst. But that's just kind of how that interaction, you know, kind of played out. But I just felt like I wanted to kind of circle back and just kind of share like how I was kind of like thinking about that today. Was not so much, I'm not even being angry or upset or anything with the other person. I have a lot of curiosity because there's like a lot of questions that maybe I will or maybe I won't get the opportunity to ask about, you know, what they really meant to what that was. But it was mostly like for me in that. And as like for some reason it feels like that interaction for me is gonna be played out maybe a little bit more. Like I said, I feel like I really was keeping myself in the COVID bubble like until really now. And I played that out for as long as I can, because there was a part of that like you know, I didn't like that people were getting sick, but I liked the like shutting, kind of that feeling of like shutting down and getting to be home and stuff like that. I liked. So anyhow, I feel like that's like when we think about like how are things, you know, we can look at the different perspectives, like how is this happening to me, but kind of going through it like thinking how is this happening for me. And I think how it's happening for, you know, for me is to really take a look at that, because I think that I will be interacting with a lot more people as a witch. And like that's a great time for me to kind of do some maybe shadow work around that, or um having more conversations about it so I can kind of process that and be, yeah, just be like you know, I want, you know, wanting to um come across as authentically as possible in within my practice when I'm engaging with other people. And I don't think that always be like perfect because it's like still a learning curve, especially like, you know, like in here, it's I can talk with ease and um feeling like that connected, and you know, we're all kind of having those pings of like having similar experiences. And so it's going to be interesting spring, I think. So with that said, I think Petra is next.
Hello, everybody. I think it's so interesting we're talking about this stuff today. Weirdly enough, I had like a very much in brand on brand for Mercury retrograde. I had a ex-friend text my husband this like in the middle of the night last night. I haven't spoken to her for 3 years. Because she like I set a boundary about she was working with him, and I was like, I need you to not talk to me about this stuff. Like, it's too complicated to like be the middle person between my husband, who's your employer. Like, just like keep me out of it. And then she like violated the boundary, messaged me about some stuff. I didn't respond because I was like, I read it on Facebook, and I was like, I've said I won't be a part of these conversations anymore. And then she proceeded to message me like another time 2 hours later, and then another time 2 hours later, and then whatever. And then I basically had to end up being like, hey, you need to stop. I'm not ready to talk to you about this yet. And that was like, that was very early on after being off of Vilify. And then like, when I was finally ready to speak to her again, she had blocked me on everything. And so I was like, okay, I guess that's the answer. Like, my boundary was met with, I don't want to be your friend anymore. I'm like, okay. Like, it was back then, like, big emotions took me literal weeks to process, and now it's like I can do this in a matter of moments. But it was so random to have that pop back up and I was like, why is this happening? And then I'm like, right, Mercury retrograde isn't just for exes. It's also for like ex anythings, right? Also old beliefs. So I think it's really interesting that we're talking about these things, because I feel like when I was sitting with this, listening to everyone, I was thinking about that, like, what are beliefs that like maybe have been so true for us, and maybe not that we're ready to like let go of them, but are we in a place where we can hold them with a bit of more of an open hand, right? Like, where we don't have to like these. I think about who I was 3 years ago when I was friends with this person, and I'm like a completely different person. And that like what I thought kept me safe then, like 3 years ago, me couldn't have imagined me now. Like, she would have been like, what the heck are you even on? Like, no. Like being, you know, opening my relationship up, having done a bunch of trauma work, lots of like even the witchy stuff, even though I understood energetic stuff, I just was definitely like had not processed enough of my own past experiences to let alone sometimes even be able to integrate what was happening to me in the present. Like, over eclipse season, I will share this. I had three separate episodes where I remembered dreaming things. Like, it's not the only way that I can like the equivalent experience that I can kind of like that has a name is like deja vu, but I don't experience deja vu. I don't have that like, oh, I've vaguely been here before. I have this immediate and complete understanding of like, I dreamt this like last summer, or I dreamt this last eclipse season. Like, I remember the dream, or I remember the like random daydream that I had sometime. And I'm like, oh my God, this is happening right now. Like, past me this, and that happened three times. And it's like, to say that to someone who doesn't know me, maybe they would be like, well, you sound nuts. Like, that sounds unhinged. But it's like, I think it's one of those things where like we start to learn to rely on our own understanding of our own experiences more than the experiences of others, which is really hard as social creatures. Like, I think Ezra said in the chat, and maybe Taryn as well, just about like the social isolation piece. And I do want to really like highlight, like, you know, for people who who have a lot of fear about people finding out about them, like that is normal. That is part of being a human being, right? Like, because the idea of exile in our nervous systems activates like total freeze and shutdown. Like our body prepares to die, because it's like, to be, if you think about evolution, it's like if we've evolved to live in social groups, like we can't actually like live by ourselves. So the act of being cut off by people is incredibly painful, or like alienated or isolated. Like I just, even with the relationship thing that I brought up last week, like that person blocked me like later on that evening, and I've been processing that trigger like this whole past week, and really holding space for my own nervous system of being like, no, like it makes sense why I'm so upset. Like, and I think so I just want to like hold space for that, for anyone who feels that way, of like how you feel about being found out or people judging you or all that stuff. There's the like the evolutionary perspective that like validates that, but there's also like, I'm so certain there's intergenerational trauma, epigenetic stuff for all of us, where like we've had ancestors that were like harmed or saw other people harmed. Like we are social creatures, and we learn from what happens to other people, and that can get stored in our DNA. So it's like, I think that there's a piece of this where there's just part of me that wonders like if some of the healing comes from like facing those intergenerational wounds as well, whenever we feel ready and safe to. That's not like nobody has to like rush to do that. I mean, that's very much like when you feel called, when you feel ready, like then like peek into it. But I think that what I wanted to just share one more thing, which is what Maria was talking about with the like happening to me versus happening for me. And I love the simplicity of the wording, but there's something about like I frame it a little bit differently, and so I think that like for me it feels more accessible, and so I was like, well, I would just want to share this in case anyone is like, the 2 and 4 feel very definitive. And I think when stuff is happening that's really hard, that like definitiveness for my body can feel really like, but what if I don't totally feel like this is happening for me? Like, what if I also feel like this is happening to me, and that feels fucking like I'm out of control, or like I'm not safe, or whatever the trauma story that's getting usually kicked up is. And so for me, I often look at things of like, how can I bring compassion and curiosity into something? Because those 2 experiences in my body bring a lot of space. And so I was thinking about that, and I was like, what can I learn from this? What do I want to release? And what do I want to bring forward? Like, just, I think that there's so much fear in the world. And so it makes sense that when we feel like we're going to be found out and abandoned, that we want to constrict and hide and not let people see us. But I think there's a lot of like courage and, for lack of a better word, power in realizing the parts of us that are so terrified are probably very young and didn't have agency and didn't have access to other people and did need the people that our parents, our loved ones, or whatever, to care for us. And I think that something that's been really liberating for me in some of this journey is realizing that like the universe has this way of, when I let go of people who can't hold space for who I actually am, that you know, it's that, what's that saying, the universe abhors a vacuum. Like as soon as you say goodbye, you release something else, that something that actually fits often falls into that place. And so there's so many times for me where like I've been terrified to let go of an idea, a belief, a fear, a whatever, like something has felt very familiar and I've kept it very close because that has given me the illusion of safety. And for me, it's not saying that I have it all figured out because I super fucking don't. Like, not even close. Like I'm just raw dogging life like everybody else. But like that it's allowed like more space even in this past week, you know, like letting go of that other person is leaving space for me to like see the ways in which there are other relationships that I've already built that are I was not seeing for them for what they were. I was like being influenced by someone else to see them as not good enough because that person wanted to be the only, so to speak. And that's the person that I'm no longer seeing. And so it's like, I think it's just always, I don't like this word, interesting, prudent, to just like pause and to take time and space to like sit with whatever comes up and let it share with us like whatever wisdom it has, and then to release it. And I think that like I'm really grateful for this space and for all of you and for the ways in which we like show up for each other and let each other be like wave our freak flags as high and loud as we want to, like, you know. And I think it's also this thing where I'm realizing that like there are more people like us out in the world than we realize, and they feel probably just like us and are afraid to. And so sometimes your courage to be who you are can call to others and show them that they can be brave too. And so I don't know why this is making me really emotional, but I want, like, I'm so grateful we have here, but I also just really want for everyone that like that geographically close, like in-person community as well, because I feel like being true, authentically yourself is a form of resistance. And I think that it's so beautiful and powerful and potent. And I hope that we all find people where we live that also can like share these things with us and that we can share these things with them, and so that we can come back here and we can tell each other about it, and like that kind of sense of community and care can just like grow. So I just wanted to share that. And I think Roxanne is next.
Yes, that I want, first of all, I want to thank everybody who's shared, everything that you said. I definitely have resonated with, and I know that others have as well. And those who are watching this afterplay are going to be able to resonate with that too. So I think the conversations we've had have been very beautiful today. It is 6 till the hour of ending SASS. So I just want to check to see if anyone had any last thoughts or anything else that they wanted to share in these last moments before we jump off back into our day. We can look at puppies. Puppies are good. Here, I'm going to pin you for a moment so we can see the puppies.
Audio is pretty great. I don't know if they pick up on the speaker, but they're like humming.
It's like they knew we were at SASS. Like they were so perfectly in their puppy piles. Mm.
Yeah, they're cute.
Is anyone coming to Foundation's dedication tomorrow from this group? Maybe not. Looking.
I'm actually going to be there probably because I need to make a new candle.
Awesome. Oh, great. Yeah, the everything the supplies you need and everything is in the welcome workbook. And if you need any help or supply check, you know where to find us.
We saw the heart, Jen Marie.
Yeah.
Ah. Well, where do you go? Where? Oh,
Well, I think that's all we have for today. I hope that everyone has a great rest of their Sunday. Those who will be at dedication candle tomorrow, we'll see you then. And do we have anything else this week, Maria?
Sorry, the phone is like so. So let's see. Tomorrow is the 15th. We have the dedication candle. And then for foundations, yeah, we have Witchwork Circle on the 21st. And then the workshop coming up on the 28th. And yeah, SASS, of course, every Sunday. And yeah, that's it for April. And then you're just kind of engaging with the workbook. The workbook has some other prompts and reflections and things like that. If yeah, for kind of, I don't know, it feels, I guess tomorrow's the halfway point of April. Time.
It is. Thank you, Maria, and we'll see y'all next time. Bye.
Bye.
bye.